Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question, and that is really, how do I stop attracting these toxic others into my life? They feel it's a recurring pattern. That is great self-awareness to stop sort of being a magnet to abusive others, finding yourself in a situation, oh my gosh, here I go again. This keeps happening to me. Realize it's important for you to understand a distinction between this person, their issues, and then yourself, and then your situation. So, usually, if you have been in a traumatizing or manipulative relationship previously, especially if you've been exposed to it for some time, like an ongoing amount of time, perhaps where you did not have any leverage, you didn't have any awareness, you were unconscious of the toxicity, you were unaware of the manipulation, you were unaware of your own boundaries and standards and what self-respect looks like, feels like, sounds like, smells like, and then how it feels, and then how you behave from a position of self-respect and trust and boundaries and standards versus not. It's a completely different starting point. It's a completely different blueprint. It's a completely different design to your life. It's a completely different outcome, combined with completely different results and where and what you manifest and accomplish in your life, including that of relationships, including that of your happiness, including that of your interests, including that of your spirituality, your physical health, and definitely as it's reflected in your emotional repertoire and your happiness overall, and then what you feel is comfortable in relationships or relating, and you're not sort of caught up in the violation of these, which is the fight or flight. That's the autonomic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. These are flicked on like a flint and steel when you are attacked, when you are rejected, when you are abandoned, when you are criticized. The human body receives these the same as if you're being threatened. So if you're being attacked, you're being threatened. But the issue with your body is it goes back to your limbic brain, the brain stem. So it becomes beyond your control. It's a subconscious surge of energy. This is fear. So when you feel a surge of energy, usually that's your autonomic and sympathetic nervous system switching on, high alert, look out, widen your eyes, rapid your breathing, clench your stomach, be prepared, to start running or freeze or fawn, and check out the situation. So this is the fight or flight. So this is really what gets switched on, and it's the internal environment that people are living in internally. And then ultimately, this is reflected in their external environment. So it becomes the natural identity. In other words, this becomes a new normal for you. Fear becomes a new normal. Being threatened becomes a new normal. Living a lie or being lied to becomes a new normal. Not getting what you need becomes a new normal. And then ultimately, this is then usually lived in denial and then coded as sacrifice, I would say, by the individual when they are very committed, especially to someone who is manipulative or toxic, meaning despite the abuse, despite the hurt, despite the criticism, despite being thrown under the bus, despite, people are usually very loyal and committed. And when you are involved in a commitment, this generally means sacrifice. So people end up sacrificing really quite a bit of their I am, especially when it comes to their own sanity, their own peace, their own harmony, their own empowerment, their own boundaries and standards. These get sort of left out of the emotional blueprint. This gets left off of the drawing board. This does not get designed into a feel-good, empowered state when you're in a relationship with an abuser. So if you find yourself attracting these people again and again and again, realize that your reticular activating system, your automatic process, is sort of on high alert, and sort of that's all that they're sort of looking for in the environment. Your reticular activating system is a subconscious process where it's kind of like if I say to you, VW bug, and you bring to image a VW bug, and then I say yellow VW bug, and so you've got this image in your mind. Your reticular activating system will then bring it up and then begin to scan the environment, generally for other things that match or are congruent with this. So your mind begins to look for that with which you have programmed it to look for, and which becomes familiar and sort of goal oriented. So this can be used to your advantage or your disadvantage, particularly when it comes to abusive relationships, physically abusive, emotionally abusive, neglectful, ones that don't have your boundaries and standards in the blueprint, the one that is designed without the central air of love. If you look at like a blueprint for a building, it's kind of like, what do you have in the internal climate? Is there central air? Is it central cold? I mean, are you cold all the time? Are you shut out and shunned? Are you ostracized? Are you scapegoated? Are you thrown under the bus time in and time again? If this has been sort of your marching orders to feel less than, then you're going to gravitate to people who will treat you less than. So this becomes your reticular activating system beyond your conscious awareness. It's just like if later today I would say, yellow VW bug, and then, you're looking and then driving, and then you see a VW bug, and then you'd be like, well, that's what Peace and Harmony is talking about. Your mind, even though you'll see all sorts of other cars, your mind will look and automatically pay attention. This is priming the subconscious. So if you're finding that you're always attracted to an abuser, realize that your reticular activating system, your automatic process in the subconscious, is what is really drawing this to you. It becomes an emotional or energetic resonance. So if you are feeling less than or low self-esteem, then you will not be a positive energetic resonance to someone who is higher accomplished, to someone who is treating you fairly, to someone who is intellectual and emotionally intelligent. You won't become an energetic match. They'll be on a higher level. So do you see how your energetics, your emotional body, your etheric body, your mindset in the positive is really what ends up drawing these people, situations, events, and really what becomes your new memories and your I am, because of this reticular activating system. So you need to have a time out and say, I do not want to be attracting this sort of internal climate again. And so getting back to the blueprint. I love the idea of a blueprint, as if you're developing a property or a ground from the ground up. You're unrolling the big scroll, and this is the basement, this is the first floor, second floor. How many floors do you want in your blueprint? Oh, I want 1,000 floors. Well, let's not get that crazy. Start with the basement. Start with the first floor, maybe a second floor or a third floor max. What is your outlook and your perspective like? Is it one where you open up the door and you're having your face hit? Is it one where you're opening up the door and you're having your head slammed against the front door? Are you getting smacked? Are you getting scolded? Is the environment cold? Is it rejecting in nature? Is it less than warm? Is it less than conducive to success? What is the temperature? What is the climate? I mean, what do you have your internal emotional warmth set to 0? Is it subtropical? Is it super warm? I mean, what is the temperature? What is the time of day? What is your outlook? What are the colors? What is your blueprint? I definitely recommend this because if you're really, attracting an emotional match to those people who are abusive, then you really need to sort of look at this as a wake-up call and have confidence in change and then confidence to change. So how many of you, by a show of hands, believe that you can change the how you feel inside and what you're attracting? How many people believe that you can do this? If you have belief and confidence in change, then this needs to be written into the blueprint of your basement. If you, in your subconscious mind, you have to realize that this has to be the space of healing. I really do believe more and more. The more people who have been suffered transgressions, the more people who have been victimized by those people who are psychopathic and narcissistic, the more I realize that boundaries and standards are not written into your emotional blueprint, your blueprint moving forward for what you build out your life to be. What is the blueprint? What is the design? Can you get your beautiful Sharpie pen? Yay, I've got a Sharpie pen. And you can do a blueprint. And you can also get like one of these big, huge, humongous these things. This is very large. This is, I would use this oftentimes before. This is a big Post-it note. These are great. You can get these on Amazon because these are like super sticker easel pads. You can get an easel. Don't get an easel. Don't make this all formal. You really have to go at the baseline level. But this is great because you can tear off a piece of paper and then stick it to your wall. And this is really a important exercise, a visualization exercise that I definitely highly recommend, because this is how you and you alone are going to heal your subconscious and your outlook, what you look up, onto every day. Remember, we're talking about like if you could get some tickets to your favorite football team or your favorite dance or your favorite movie or whatever it is you're into, where would you really like the seats to be? Do you want like them to be way up, in the bleachers? Do you want them to be on the field? Do you want them to be in a shadow box? Where do you want your seats to be? So realize that and begin to understand what boundaries and standards look like. In other words, in other words, if you transgress this and this becomes a no, and then this is where I'm responsible for the internal climate and then the outlook. In other words, your emotional tickets. If you could, get a ticket for yourself, where would you like your perspective to realistically be? Not, unrealistically, I would love to, live in a treehouse with Peter Pan. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, realistically understanding on an operative sense what boundaries and standards and respect and trust really feel like, and then what that means on an operative applicable basis, and then how you have leverage, basically, which means like having a handle on a pan, which means you have the ability not to grab it from the round part, but from a lever. So this gives you better positioning. This gives you a better grip. This gives you a better perspective. So if you are then to understand that if you have been violated, traumatized, abused, scapegoated, been thrown under the bus to the point where you feel like chopped liver or worse, realize that oftentimes this is at the hands of people who are unhappy. They are hurtful because they are hurt people. Hurt people hurt, healed people heal. So where do you want to be on the side of the fence? Do you want to be hurt all the time, or do you want to be healed? Peace and harmony, I grew up on the wrong side of the fence. Okay, great. Well, now's your time to get back to the drawing board. Create an emotional and physical blueprint for yourself. And what is your internal climate, especially when it comes to what you see and feel within? Is it cold and drafty? Is it warm? Is it neutral? Does it have a lot of fans going on? Does it have, a cooler temperature? Does it smell like roses? Does it have a scent of peppermint? What are your senses? And what does it feel like once you're inside or outside? And then realize that you want to develop a boundary and a standards that leaves abusers out and you have an ability to be safe within. So literally, what do you have? Like a lock and key, a chain link, you have a cyber code. What is it that you can then create an internal environment that has the blueprint that you can draw out? And so, not that you have to get an elaborate blueprint, but what I want you to understand is really what it looks like in terms of your boundaries and standards. Realize that your subconscious is what is sort of creating an energetic match or a resonance with an abuser. In other words, I know how to play being abused very well. Do you want to stop, trying out for this role? Do you want to stop applying for this on the help wanted? Do you want to stop, making this your profile? Do you want to stop making this what you apply for almost like a job or a position, on a help wanted or a job application? Do you no longer want to be actively hurting anymore? So you literally have to be willing and to have confidence in change and say, I resign from being abused. I resign. And how many feel confident making that statement? If you are confident making that statement, then that might feel like a very good degree of relief. And what feels like relief for you, you have to literally say, I surrender. I resign. I give up. I quit. Like I'm turning it in. I'm turning in my pink slip. I quit. I can no longer go back to this building. I can no longer go back to the small place from which I've come. I'm too big now. I've bloomed now. I cannot go back into the smallness with which you are making me. So that is like abuse will then feel like regression, and it will feel like you cannot go back. So you want progression, you want wellness, you want empowerment. So that is so important for you to acknowledge and validate also within what comes within your boundaries. Does it feel like respect? Does it feel like animosity? Does it feel like hatred? Does it feel like unfairness? Does it feel like judgment? So, developing what comes in and then what stays out is so very important for you to realize, where you have the key to the door. The abuser does not have the key to the door. They don't have any key. They don't have a skeleton key. They don't have any key. So they might pound down the door, but usually it's, then are you letting in an abuser? If they're pounding it down, how are you then lowering your boundaries and lowering your standards so that they become non-existent? Peace and harmony. I have, anxiety in social situations because of this. Well, you need to understand that you have an internal real estate, if you will, and that you don't have to have that internal real estate become vandalized, have, tomatoes thrown at it or whatever hurtful statements, looks, images, that were transgressed. You have to understand that if you still have a lot of these sort of traumas, these sort of transgressions, this violation of your boundaries and standards, then you have some patching up, some work to do in your blueprint. Here's where they dug down and got underneath the fence. Here's where they climbed above. Here's where they, broke it down. So realize, how strong is your fence? How strong is your boundary? How confident are you? And how mindful can you be on the watchtower of your own fence and say, nope, that is unacceptable. Nope, this is sacred ground. This is this internal environment. This is where really the good stuff happens, and the negativity, the bad, the abuse cannot come here. So how many can create and locate a sacred space within? And how many can then draw that out and reinforce it, and not only keep a place within, but also a place in your environment that reflects and mirrors this consistently? Whether it's a home office, whether it's a home workout gym, whether it's your kitchen, you have to have a sacred place, which is a feel good space to you all the time. You need to be able to also carry this within you, within your day. That feel good place that you go, wait, I'm going back to my feel good place, like a button on an elevator. I'm going to push my own buttons. I'm going, and you are pushing your own buttons rather than having another toxic individual push your buttons and telling you what floor you're going to get off on or where you're going to live. You need to be able to create and cultivate, especially that internal climate, and know the temperature, know the colors, know the feeling, know what it, and then know also what it feels like, and then realize that, then make a commitment. I no longer am an energetic match to being abused. I'm no longer an energetic match to living a lie. I'm no longer an energetic match to being taken advantage of. I'm no longer an energetic match to being fooled. I'm no longer an energetic match to being played. I'm no longer an energetic match to being manipulated. I'm no longer, no matter what. No matter what. And it is okay, and I will take the time to acknowledge and validate and then create the security despite those insecure others who are abusive. Realize that those people who are abusive, those people are very insecure. So they must make transgressions to get what they want. Don't put yourself on the chopping block. Begin to come back to your wholeness that doesn't have any chops on it, that doesn't have any lashing out on it. Come back to that state of calm and be able to say enough is enough. And you have confidence in change and confidence to change. And once you own that confidence, then you can really begin to make progress. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace in brings peace without and peace all around. Have a beautiful day. Understand what your boundaries and your standards and your internal climate are. Make that your priority. Make it temperate, make it comfortable, and don't be afraid to keep those people who are harmful, hurtful out from your internal environment. Have a beautiful day.